Welcome everyone to Not That Media. My name is John, and in this new series of videos entitled The 12 Scares of Christmas, starting December Friday the 13th, 2024 and running till Christmas Eve, I'm going to be giving you 12 film recommendations, all of them Christmas movies, all of them horror, some a little scarier than others, some a little bit more family friendly, something for everyone I hope. I've made this list, I've checked it twice, you better watch out and I hope you're ready to slay, because come along with me as I start The 12 Scares of Christmas. In Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, 4 years after the events of Silent Night, Deadly Night, Ricky Caldwell is being held in a mental hospital, having followed in his brother Billy's footsteps and committed a series of brutal murders. He's now hell-bent on avenging his brother's death, and Ricky sets out to continue the family tradition of Christmas carnage. So Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good fright. My next recommendation might be a little bit of a surprise or a confusing curveball for long-term horror fans. It is Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. For those of you who are unaware of this particular franchise, and once again trying to cater for everybody, so those of you who are Christmas spirited but are not necessarily horror orientated, Silent Night, Deadly Night, which was released in 1984, has garnered somewhat of a cult classic and has a long legacy as a result of the ongoing plethora in the 80s of holiday-related horror movies. We survived Halloween, we survived Prom Night, April Fool's Day, My Bloody Valentine, etc, etc. It was only a matter of time before Christmas would be on the agenda of slashers. Now, obviously there is already a number of Christmas films, and Black Christmas, for example, is arguably the earliest iteration of a slasher film, but Silent Night, Deadly Night hit differently. The problem with Silent Night, Deadly Night is that it was actually banned in the UK until as recently as 2020, as was Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. But as a result of a plethora of complaints and media campaigns and newspaper campaigns, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 1 was actually removed from the cinema a week after its first theatrical release. So the first film never quite garnered the financial success that it deserved. But more about that in a moment. If you've never seen the first film, I will very, very briefly give you a little bit of a synopsis. It revolves around little Billy. Billy is a young boy, I believe he's 7 at the start of the film, who is on a road trip home with his mother and father and little baby brother Ricky. He is Christmas orientated, he loves Christmas, lives and breathes it, and he's so desperate to get home because he wants to be home before Santa, because obviously if he's not in bed by the time Santa gets there, he might not leave his presents. So the parents find a broken down car in front of them as they're driving, and a man dressed as Santa, seeing an opportunity to have a little bit of merriment and a little bit of fun where their little boy can see Santa in the real world. This actually very quickly takes a very dark turn when it turns out that this is actually a sexually assaulting murderer. There's no explanation given, there's no information given about this person. He is on the road, he is clearly out for mayhem, and unfortunately Ricky's parents are both murdered before his eyes while little Billy the baby cries in the back seat. It is a very dark and very harrowing opening, even though it is a 1984 slasher. So although Ricky's life is obviously already taken a bad turn, it gets even worse when he and Billy are taken to an orphanage which is run by sadistic nuns, in my opinion. The Mother Superior is absolutely desperate to smack the absolute hell out of all the children who have the audacity to be naughty, and they must receive their punishments at all time. So as a result of these events, Ricky unfortunately is in somewhat of a mentally unstable position. So when he eventually leaves the orphanage and gets a job in a Christmas shop, a Christmas toy store, one of the greatest Christmas toy stores you can ever see when you look at the toys on the shelf, but beside the point. So when the shop has the great idea to dress him up as a store Santa, and he begins to witness people being naughty, unfortunately his brain breaks and he becomes a sadistic, mutilating murderer who picks up an axe and really only says one word for the rest of the film, which is punish. He exacts his revenge in the name of Santa to keep Christmas pure. This is a fantastic film which in the early 80s is a really good example of nature versus nurture. What happens when a series of bad events happen to an innocent child, and the effects that that can have as a result of it. The film could have been a fantastic insight into that, and certainly the film does tackle it to a certain extent. The problem with Silent Night Deadly Night 1 is that the company involved for the media campaign got very carried away. So rather than advertising a film about a mentally damaged person who dresses up as Santa, the marketing campaign thought it would be fantastic to actually advertise a killer Santa Claus. So all those adverts, when you go back and look, they ain't talking about Billy or Ricky, they are talking about Santa Claus. He's coming to get you, you better not laugh, you better not cry, he's coming, he's going to punish you if you've been naughty. And of course, at the time, Hollywood and even in the UK, horror was getting a very bad rap. The religious movements were against it, family orientated, the Mary Whitehouses of the world were out for blood metaphorically and trying to shut these films down. So there's a fantastic piece of archival footage on the Going to Pieces DVD documentary, if you've ever seen that, where one of the reports was, killer Santa Claus, what's next? A killer bunny? Killer Easter bunny and all this kind of stuff. So for its sins, Silent Night Deadly Night was pulled from theatres and banned in the UK. So why, faithful viewer, you might ask, am I bothering to talk about Silent Night Deadly Night 2 as opposed to the first part? Now the first part is great, I do recommend watching it, but I recommend Silent Night Deadly Night 2 because when I sat down to watch it, and I'm sure most of you horror fans out there are the same, if you watch part 1 of a film and you enjoy it, and as a horror goes, there's always going to be a swathe of sequels. Indeed, Silent Night Deadly Night has 4 sequels and a very loose remake. You're going to want to watch them all. You're going to want to sit and watch them all in succession. You're going to want to absorb as much of these sequels and lore and mythology, etc, etc, etc. So back in the day, when I bought Silent Night Deadly Night 1 and 2 on Blu-ray, and we had a bit of an evening with a friend round, and we said, let's go watch these 2 films back to back. We had a very difficult experience watching Silent Night Deadly Night 2, and this is why I'm recommending it as opposed to telling you to watch the first one and then watch the second one. Because of the lack of profit and the lack of return on the investment of the first movie, the creators of Silent Night Deadly Night 2 had this fantastic idea to recount the first film. Now, I'm not talking about Ricky sitting in a chair, although he does do that, and tells you about his older brother Billy and what happened and why Billy killed and his time at the orphanage, etc. Rather than have a 5-minute scene or an opening prologue like we see in most films, this film spends the first 30 to 40 minutes recounting Silent Night Deadly Night, but literally showing you the whole film again. Just cutting out a lot of the boring exposition and a little bit of the gore and the nudity, it has to be said. They did tone it down a little bit, because Silent Night Deadly Night Part 1, whilst by today's standards would probably not be considered to be overly gory, especially in this post-Terrifier world we now live in, it was actually given a bit of a bad reputation, Silent Night Deadly Night 1. It's got some great kills, some great over-the-top ones, one genuinely very funny and very scary at the same time involving a sled, but I won't spoil that. So when the second film came along, if you would watch these 2 films back to back, you would have the unenviable task of having to watch all of Silent Night Deadly Night 1 and then spend 40 minutes watching the same film again, just with all the exposition cut out. So you get 2 for 1, in my opinion, with Silent Night Deadly Night Part 2. The first 40 minutes is mostly the flash, everything you want to see, all the background, all the stuff that led to this moment. But the difference is the story is recounted via very bad voiceover from Ricky's perspective. There is a ridiculous scene in which Ricky recounts the fact that when he was a baby, the Christmas Eve his parents were murdered, although Billy told him about it later, he claims to remember everything. So automatically we are in a very strange situation where a grown man is claiming that he, when he was a baby, he remembered witnessing his parents being brutally murdered. So don't expect high art and don't expect deep storytelling is what I'm going to tell you here. This is a so bad it is good film. At this point, Ricky escapes the said asylum and goes on a killing spree. After recounting the events that led to him being arrested as well, it has to be said. This film is just insane, is what I would say. And what people might not know, obviously horror fans will, but Silent Night Deadly Night 2 became a overnight viral phenomenon. And you probably have seen this gif, seen this meme, seen this image, because when Ricky is recounting the reasons why he was arrested, after certain events trigger him to lose his mind in a very similar way as his older brother Ricky did, he proceeds to take a gun off a police officer, shoot him in the face, and then proceeds to walk down the street. At this point, he sees a neighbour putting the bins or the garbage out, and the camera cuts to Ricky, who, with the most over-the-top, comic book-esque, super-villain voice goes, "Garbage day!" and shoots the guy in the middle of the street. It is one of the craziest, over-the-top, funny moments, I think, in any horror film. Like, it is so bad, it is good. So if you've seen that viral campaign, if you've seen that gif, that meme, that post, and you've always wondered, who is this dude in the jumper with his wide eyes shouting "Garbage Day"? Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. I don't want to recommend a particular scene in this video. I know I normally do, and I do normally try to be spoiler-free as humanly possible, but I think Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 gets a little bit of a bad rap as being a bad film. What I would say is, like I say, the first half is a greatest hit, so you get everything you need to know from the first film, and it's free to stream right now, I should say as well. Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is currently free on Amazon Prime, whereas you have to pay to watch Silent Night, Deadly Night 1. So you can watch two films for the price of one, which is currently free. So bargain. But I think that sometimes in these horror films, and I am one of these people that maybe rightly or wrongly, I like to give a little bit of a pass over the festive season when it comes to bad films. I think sometimes, like, we're all guilty of watching that bad Christmas film. We're all guilty of watching that bad holiday special that we know absolutely sucks. But because it's the holiday period, because although, you know, we want to watch something horrific, we want to have some fun, I think Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 delivers on so many levels. The lead actor who plays Ricky in Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, genuinely, I think he's in the wrong film. At one moment, he is sitting and he's trying to articulate the mental damage and the trauma and all these kind of things that have led to the moment where Billy lost his mind, and as a result of the events of the first film, this is why Ricky has lost his mind. If this was given to a more heavyweight actor, it could actually be a very strong, very grounded, very detailed account of mental health and damage. This dude, I think he thinks he's either the Terminator, or he seems to think that maybe he's Superman when he's under the influence of kryptonite, because he plays it with such a madcap face. The eyebrows move so fast it would make Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson giggle. His facial expressions are straight out of Looney Tunes. This is a man who can pick people up with one arm and throw them across the room like he's super powered, but he's meant to be a normal person. So like I say, it feels like he thinks he's the Terminator or Superman on kryptonite. It's a really odd set of choices. It's a really interesting way to go with it. It completely removes any sense of real horror and danger from the film, but the idea of a man dressing up as Santa Claus and running around killing people, ironically, is all the rage right now in December 2024, thanks to Art the Clown and Terrifier 3. How many times can we plug Terrifier 3 in this video series? I think I'm up to a good number now, but genuinely, it's never been a popular concept in horror films right now. It's not about a killer Santa Claus, it's about a killer dressing up as Santa Claus. Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 did it long before Art the Clown did, and ironically, Terrifier 3 references Silent Night, Deadly Night Parts 1 and 2 in a good amount of detail. So if you are in a post Terrifier 3 blues, if you're looking for something else to watch, I strongly recommend Silent Night, Deadly Night 2. It's got everything you need to know about the first film. It's got all the kills. This has got some really interesting kills as well, this film. For a film with a relatively low budget and a relatively thin cast in terms of heavyweight acting, they make up for it with the kills. The completely crazy lead actor who's walking around giggling and shouting "punish" every 5 minutes is just hilarious. He will make you laugh. Get your friends round, get this film on, do a drinking game where anybody says the words "naughty, naughty" and "punish," and you will be off your face by the end of this 90 minutes. It's off the wall, it's crazy, Christmas is here, Christmas is everywhere. I can't recommend this film more than enough. Watch it for what it is, a fun sequel to a film that maybe deserved better than it got, but you get all the seriousness you need. Okay, have you got that? Have you enjoyed that? Okay, here comes the coming off the the wheels and we're going to go completely crazy and off-road and completely undermine everything that you're expecting, because hell, it's Christmas and you want to have fun. So I hope you enjoyed that recommendation. I strongly do recommend this film. Please do watch the rest of my series. If you're new here, do like and subscribe. It is free on Amazon Prime, as I said at the time of recording. Certainly in the UK, I can't talk about obviously foreign streaming rights. You can purchase the film physically. It does come in a really good Blu-ray with 101 films, and I believe Scream Factory as well have a Blu-ray which comes with some decent extras and interviews, follow-up, filming locations now and then. It's a great time. It's a ridiculous movie. So until next time, stay scared.
Garbage Day! Huh?